What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Boogie2988 coming at you live once again through the power of the internet. And I used to be a very fat person. I'm currently still very fat, but I used to be very fat too. Whenever I read my comment section or my responses on Twitter or people discussing me or other fat people on Reddit and places like that, I actually notice there's a lot of questions that people don't know the answers to about being a morbidly obese, gigantic person. And then, of course, there's a lot of misconceptions as people try to fill in the gaps for themselves because they can only imagine what it's like. So today, I thought I would answer some of your questions from Twitter and elsewhere to try to give you guys an idea what it's like to have been, in the 380-pound body that I'm in now, or what it was like to be almost 600 pounds, a few years ago. Fair warning, though, we will probably approach some of the more difficult and maybe even some of the more disgusting topics. If somebody asks those questions, I'm going to answer those questions because I think, those are the most important ones to get right. So fair warning, we might talk about all kinds of gnarly and nasty stuff, and I'll probably get demonetized because of it, but that's okay because I feel like this needs to be done. Please keep in mind, by the way, I can't represent every big person here. Everybody's different, okay? I can tell you things from my perspective, and I can answer questions from friends that I know who've shared this kind of information with me, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a case-by-case scenario. This is just how stuff applies to me. Well, I guess we'll start off with the dirty stuff right away. Can you see your wee-wee? Lug wants to know. At my biggest ever, at 575 pounds, no. At 500 pounds, no. When I looked down, I couldn't see my feet or pretty much anything in the lower half of my body. In the right position, laying in bed, sure. Do you enjoy playing your belly? I presume he means playing with my belly. Not really. I mean, at its biggest, it was really too big to really do anything with, and now that it's all loose and weird and there's all that loose skin, it just kind of grosses me out a little bit. I don't like it at all. I will say that I have been with partners who are fascinated with it, who love to play with it, who love the weight of it, the whole 9 yards. So I don't know. Some people seem to enjoy it. It's not for me, though. Milo wants to know, how do you bring up a family member's health when you're concerned about them? Like, if you have an obese family member that I'm worried about is killing themselves, what's the best way to address that so that it doesn't feel like I'm attacking them or just trying to be mean? For me, personally, when somebody talked to me about my weight or the fact that it was killing me or something like that, that always made me feel very hurtful. It made me feel very defensive. It made me feel like they were being condescending. That was almost never helpful to me. What has always been helpful to me is when friends and family try to improve the underlying issues that have been causing me to eat myself to death. When they help me with my anxiety, when they help me with my depression, when they help me with my surroundings or my mental state, when they give me something interesting and new to focus on, a new experience and something to do, I got to tell you something, I eat less and less on those days. And so I think that's what you should probably consider doing for your family member. And the fact that I have a lot of people in my life right now who are helping me find the right direction, helping my life be a much better life at one worth living, that's allowed me to really, really focus on the stuff that I need to do, and it's what's got me on the right track now. And if you do approach your family member in that way and you do help them with the other things going on in their lives, then you still want to discuss the weight. You've bought yourself a little bit of street cred there, so it's not going to feel as offensive. One of the reasons I've been helping out lately is I've been really worried about your health. That's going to come across a lot better than just attacking them across the dinner table. Especially since your surgery, what is your opinion on the trend of body positivity and the acceptance and glorification of body types which are overweight and obese? Do you support it, or do you think that people shouldn't promote an unhealthy lifestyle? My opinion about that has not changed since the surgery. I think health at any size is an absurd concept. When you were morbidly obese, you might currently be healthy with the right blood pressure and the right blood sugar numbers, but you're constantly damaging your internal organs, and when they begin to fail, well, then you're just going to have like a domino effect like I did. You're healthy now, but you're currently doing damage by being morbidly obese. Health at any size is a delusion. When it comes to body positivity, I think it's okay to love whatever body you are in, especially because it takes a very long time to make the kind of change to a body that people like to see or that they may want. But I think you should always be working towards a healthier you, a stronger you, a better you, and that means both mentally and physically. So if you're a crazy person, it's okay to love who you are being crazy, but you should probably do your best to try to get as sane as possible. And if you're morbidly obese, you should love who you are and what body you're in, but you should also work towards being a healthier person. How do you stop nervous eating? I tend to do that. The answer to this question, and I think an answer to a lot of the questions I'll get tonight, are going to be therapy. You need to get with a therapist and work on the underlying issues that make you do that and start approaching those, and that's going to make you stop doing that a lot more. For me, the therapy didn't work that well, so I ended up going with a surgical intervention. That might have to happen for some people too. Is this the lightest you have ever been? I mean, I was once a baby. I wasn't a 387-pound baby. But to be honest with you, I was 387 pounds, I guess, probably by the end of high school. And so this would be the first time I've been under 400 pounds, I guess, probably since 1992. How often do you come across seats you can't fit in? At 587 pounds, at my biggest, all the time. And yeah, at about 550 and 500 pounds, pretty much all the time now. And in the 90s, when I was 350 and 400 pounds, all the time then too. Now that America has gotten fat along with me, it's a lot more common for me to find chairs and seats that I can fit into. But you know, it used to be all the time as a teenager. I just literally couldn't sit down anywhere, which was miserable because I would race from seat to seat because I was so exhausted and in so much pain. Now at this size, it's very weird because I will see a chair with arms on the side and think I can't sit there, and I'll just stand up and wait for the doctor or the dentist or the banker or whatever I need to see. And then I actually just get tired and decide to sit down and give it a shot, and I fit in it very, very comfortably. It's also been a problem with cars for the most part. A lot of cars I've not even been able to fit in the passenger seats of at my largest size. These days I'm fitting in even the smallest cars. Uh-oh, here's a sexy question. As a large person, I found that being on top made my hips hurt and very quickly became out of breath. As a man, usually on top, do you find you have a similar problem, or do you anger yourself accordingly? My absolute largest, being on top was just not a possibility due to physics. Now that I'm much smaller, it's not much of an issue. At 300 and 400 pounds, I've never had very much issue with it. But at 500 pounds, you bet your bottom dollar that I had to be on bottom. And here's a bathroom question. How were you able to wipe at your largest? Fairly simple. Actually, I had to stand up. I had to put one leg up on the toilet and then just reach around and do my business. But for some of the people I've talked to who have had issues with that, they told me that just buying a basic portable bidet from Amazon, which you can get for like 20 or 30 bucks, is a great way to get clean if you're unable to do that. How do you combat late night cravings? Yes, I'm going back to therapy with this one. But as a temporary stopgap, my recommendation is to make sure you're getting a lot of protein in your diet, because protein really does curb hunger and makes it a lot easier for you to not get hungry. If you have to eat something at night, make sure you're eating a nice lean protein like a nut or a bean or maybe some lean meat. I always keep a rotisserie chicken in the kitchen. But since the surgery, hunger is just not really an issue. Physical hunger and mental hunger is really not there either. So sometimes I have to remind myself to eat. I honestly want to know what flipped the switch inside your head that you needed to change. You were this way for a very long time. What made you buckle down and finally take a stand for yourself? For the first 35, 36 years of my life, I was eating to die, not eating to live. I didn't care if I lived or died. My life was miserable. I was just pretty much unable to find anything to fight for or any reason to. My brain hurt, my chest hurt, my body hurt. I just wanted to die. And those self-destructive tendencies have been very difficult to beat. I'm still struggling with them even today and probably will for the rest of my life. However, starting my YouTube channel and starting to make these big improvements to my life and having something that I was passionate about and getting the opportunity to travel the world and improve my income and improve the quality of life and meet people and make friends and do cool stuff, that's what really changed things. So I started making changes to the external part of me, and that allowed me to start make changes to the mental part of me, and that finally started to let me make physical changes. Please attack this one because this notion really upsets me. Is it easy to put the fork down? Now, what she's addressing here is the very common notion that fat people just need to stop eating. You just need to stop doing the thing. It's as simple as not eating that food anymore or not doing that thing anymore. Just put the fork down and you'll suddenly become skinny. And at the end of the day, there is no real magic silver bullet to losing weight. It really does involve calories in versus calories out. You've got to burn more calories than you're taking in. You have to eat better and you have to exercise more. That's it. There's no surgery, no pill, no chemical will change that formula. However, the mass majority of people that I've met who are 300, 400, 500, 600 pounds tend to have some sort of mental issues, whether it's chronic depression, chronic anxiety, schizophrenia, something along that lines that can make it very, very difficult for them to put that fork down because they are being self-destructive, because they are mentally or physically in pain and they are just unhappy and they don't want to live and they don't care if they live and die and they are self-medicating with food. And for somebody trapped in that cycle, putting down the fork is a very difficult thing to do. And the sad news there is there's no other way to do it. You still have to get your calories in versus calories out correct, and you may have to deal with hormonal issues and metabolic issues and mental issues and physical injuries to do that, and it could be very, very difficult, and it's going to become more difficult the bigger you get and the longer you are that size. The work still has to get done. How do you deal with getting called fat on the daily and deal with all the hate? On some days, very, very poorly. It can really get to me sometimes. To quote Doctor Who, a life is a pile of good things and a pile of bad things. And the good things don't necessarily negate the bad, but the bad don't necessarily negate the good. But you get to determine which pile you focus on. And if your pile of bad is massively huge and outnumbers your pile of good 1,000 to 1, as long as there's just a shred of hope in that pile of good, and you choose to focus on that and try to avoid adding back to that big pile of bad, that's going to lead you down the right path. That's what I've done my whole life, and I've continued to add more and more things to that pile of good until the pile of good things in my life vastly outweigh the negativity, and so it becomes much, much easier to avoid the negative. How do I post this without sounding mean? Oh, this is going to be a good one. The large people break out really bad in their folds due to the sweat. Also, did you get those large skin growths like people on the 600-pound shows have on their legs? I've been fairly lucky for the most part when it comes to sweating and smelling issues, though I do know fungal issues have been a problem for a lot of people my size, including myself. By staying very clean and showering frequently and making sure you get very, very dry, and by using medication whenever it's necessary and using a deodorant and antiperspirant, it's fairly manageable for 98% of the people I know. I've had a lot of problem with my legs though, which led to venous insufficiency, which led to lymphedema. There's a video about that here on my channel, so I won't repeat too much. You can go watch the video if you want to know. I never got the gross or any of those things like that, but when people do get that, it tends to be due to circulation issues, like the venous insufficiency I had. I've always taken impeccable care with my legs, making sure that I got enough time with them elevated and wearing my compression socks. And even though I've gotten like 5 or 6 infections that have hospitalized me and nearly killed me, and then many more that needed to be treated with antibiotics, I've gotten very, very lucky in that regard. A lot of people my size have not gotten so lucky. How tough is it to just get up and walk around? As a young adult, even at 300, 400 pounds, I was very, very mobile. I used to walk a mile or 2 miles or 3 miles every day. Even though my breathing issues and my asthma made that very, very difficult, I still did it out of necessity because I didn't have a car and I lived in a fairly large town. But when I was 25, we got into a car accident and I injured my back, and that made getting around and walking very, very difficult. Then the lymphedema set in and made it even more difficult. And so there was a period of time at my largest, just last year, I could barely walk from the living room to my bathroom and back without getting horribly out of breath, feeling dizzy, feeling miserable, and just being in an incredible amount of pain. The good news is I'm no longer limited by running out of breath, and I'm no longer limited by the dizziness and the lightheadedness and stuff. After surgery, I started walking on a walker. Now I can walk for a good amount of time. The only thing that's really limiting to me now is the knee and back pain. But I can still do 5 or 10 minutes on my feet at a time, maybe sometimes as much as 15, and I'm able to make it some reasonably short distances, and it's improving every single day. What are some things that people of average weight take for granted that a 400-plus pound person would find quite difficult to use? Are you talking about thin privilege, bruh? Are you talking about your little thin privilege, bruh? That ain't PC. You ain't being PC. So many things, though. Something as simple as dating or going to a bar and being comfortable, or finding furniture in a public place that you can comfortably sit on at a doctor's office or a dentist's office, or waiting in line, or just trying to buy concert tickets or going to a concert and hopefully fitting in the chairs, being able to buy clothes off of the rack, being able to fit into smaller compact cars and issues. I mean, so many things like that. It really impacts almost every aspect of your daily life all the time. And then finally, I guess this one's not as much about being fat as it is a more personal question, or at least that's how I'm taking it. If you were 25 again, what would you do differently? I would definitely try to approach the underlying issues that were making me so miserable and so suicidal. I wouldn't have let my first small business fail due to my depression and my anxiety. I wouldn't have spent 7 years after my back injury as a shut-in, putting on the last 100 pounds while doing nothing but playing EverQuest and World of Warcraft daily like that was my job. But at the end of the day, everything that's happened to me has led to this point and has led to me being the person that I currently am. And I really like this point in my life, even though there's a lot of things I wish were different. I'm glad for the things that I have in my life, and I like the person that I currently am, and I'm looking forward to the things that are yet to come and looking forward to the person that I'm going to be. So honestly, I think I'd be afraid to change anything, because now that I'm finally right on the right path, all those things led me to this point. I look forward to seeing what's coming in the future, so maybe I wouldn't change anything. Oh geez, I think this video is going to be like 15 minutes long, so I think I'll wrap it up here. We got to some of the best questions, but there's still plenty more to be asked, so feel free to ask them in the comment section below. While you're down there, don't forget to drop a like on the video. I hope that this helps you get a better idea of what it's like to have been a big person, and what it's like if you are a big person, what your future might look like. And do me a favor, learn from my mistakes and do better than I did. Please. Until then, guys, I thanks for watching. I love you very much, and I'll speak with you again soon. Let me know if you want to see more stuff like this.